Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berks County. My name is Nadine, and my pronouns are they and their. As Unitarian Universalists, we come together not with a list of required beliefs, but with a set of shared values centered on an unconditional, unshakable love. Whoever you are and whomever you love, wherever you are at this moment, in the sanctuary or online, wherever you are on your life's journey, you're welcome in this community. As we are gathering, I want to extend a special welcome to anyone who's visiting with us this morning and invite you to join us after the service for coffee and conversation during fellowship time in the Gerber Room, which is to my left and your right. Those joining online, please take a minute to write your name in the chat box and let us know where you're joining us from this morning. You'll find the UU Berks web address in the chat box and a link to today's order of service, and you can sign up on our webpage for our weekly e-newsletter. For new families and our youngest members, there are a few options for being present in worship this morning. There's our children's space at the back of the sanctuary, where Miss Erin is keeping an eye on things. Or you may sit in the pews with your parents. And there's also a quiet nursery space just off the sanctuary through that door to my left and your right, just across the hallway. And there are audio services available there. Chalice reading this morning is by Elizabeth M. Strong. This is the time for you to light a chalice if you have one at home, while we light our chalice in the sanctuary. Out of the earth rises light, rises life, rises spring. May we join with the miracle that is springtime and enter into life with lightness and joy. Out of the Spirit rises faith, rises hope, rises love. May we join with the miracle that is Easter time and enter into life with hope and love. Let us resurrect with spring, let us resurrect with the Spirit and enter into renewed life as we gather into our time of worship together this Easter morning. Please rise in body or spirit and join in our opening hymn, number 270, O Day of Light and Gladness.
The story The Phoenix Told, written by April Rosario, inspired by the story of the phoenix in Greek mythology. Once upon a time, long, long ago, in a faraway land, there lived a magnificent phoenix. Her feathers glowed with the colors of the sun, beautiful shades of gold, crimson, and orange. Her feathers were so beautiful that the human beings of the land thought she carried pieces of the sunrise in her wings.
But she was not only known for her beauty, but for her wisdom as well. And it was her wisdom that the people of the land turned to one dreadful year. You see, that was the year a great storm swept through the land, leaving destruction in its wake.
Full of despair, the people went to the phoenix seeking her guidance. "Great phoenix," they asked, Whatever shall we do? How can we find hope when everything feels lost?
And the phoenix responded by telling them a story. Are you guys ready for a story this morning? Are you ready for a story this morning? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. This is the story of how I came to be, the phoenix began. Long ago, in my very first life, I lived in a land of eternal spring. The days were gentle and the nights were calm. My feathers were colorful, but not as colorful as they are now. And my strength was less than it is now. One day, the land was struck by a great fire. And flames consumed everything in their path, including the tree that held my nest. I fought to escape, but the fire was relentless. It consumed me, and in the blaze I felt the searing pain of being burnt and turned to ash.
Yet, as the fire burned, something extraordinary happened. What I thought was my last breath filled my lungs with a new strength. And with that newly discovered inner strength, from the ashes I began to stir. Slowly, I emerged reborn. And as I looked at my feathers, I saw that the fire had not destroyed them, but made their color more vibrant than before. And over the years, this has happened over and over again, with the pain of the fire not destroying me, but leaving me stronger and more beautiful than before. And so, friends, said the phoenix, I ask you this, as you look around at your own destruction, are you sure that rubble is all you see?
And with the phoenix story and question filling their mind, they looked again at the destruction and rubble around them.
And just as the phoenix had found new strength in her ashes, the people noticed a new type of power arising among them as they found strength in sharing their burdens and working together.
And just as the phoenix watched the fire make her feathers even more beautiful, the people slowly noticed a new and more beautiful type of love arise between them as they realized that they didn't need to heal and recover all on their own.
The people indeed were stronger and more beautiful, and even more joyful than before.
There is so much I love about this story, but the biggest thing is the way the story reminds us that when times are hard and seem hopeless, we need to keep looking, because even though those hard times hurt, a new type of strength and beauty often arises from it. Or to put it another way, if we look hard enough, we can find joy in the midst of difficult times. So, in the week and the days ahead, may all of us, kids and adults alike, hold on to this story and remember. What should we remember, friends? Maybe to keep looking? Can we promise that? Keep looking. Keep looking for the strength and beauty and joy that is trying to arise.
Let us open our minds and our hearts to the spirit of this community. Take this moment to call to mind all who are in need of our kindness, caring, and love. Consider in this moment if there is someone in your life, even if that someone is yourself, who needs our support this week. We take this time in the service to honor those souls. Those who are online may share their joys and their sorrows in the chat box, and those here in the sanctuary are invited to come forward and place stones in our common bowl in silence, in sympathy, celebration, or solidarity. Let us sing together now, Spirit of Life, first in Spanish and then in English.
Cántale tu compasión, salva
all our joys, all our sorrows, whether we share them with one another or we hold them close and quiet in our hearts. Let us be together now in a spirit of prayer and reflection. It seems odd in the present moment to speak of resurrection. Insensitive, perhaps, in the face of such widespread global suffering and death. But this is exactly why we must celebrate the promise of resurrection and the role we play in the endless spirit of unconditional love. Life persists and must at least acknowledge the rising that takes place within our own spirits. We gather together this morning to celebrate a spirit that cannot be destroyed, no matter how many small deaths it may suffer. Joy overshadowed by worry, courage overshadowed by fear, charity overshadowed by selfishness, love overshadowed by indifference. Each of these is a death of the spirit. Each of these is an opportunity for resurrection. Eternal and beloved, gracious source of all life and all love, we come together this day grateful for this time out of time which we have set apart, so that we might become more fully present to our own selves, to each other, to our communities, and to that which we call holy. May our hearts be open together. May our spirits be lifted together. May we find in this community the power to rise when we feel tempted to give in and surrender. May we each find a way to be the source of courage and a rising spirit within the life of another. May we renew our commitment to act from a place of love rather than a place of fear. All this we pray in the names of those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Amen. Our reading this morning comes to us from the Christian scriptures and the gospel attributed to Mark. Then they sent Jesus some Pharisees and some Herodians to trap him in what he said. And they came and said to him, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality, but teach the way of God in accordance with truth. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay them or should we not?" But, knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, "Why are you putting me to the test? Bring me a denarius, let me see it." And they brought one. Then he said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" And they answered, "Caesar's." And Jesus said to them, "Give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And they were utterly amazed by him.
lingers on, my Father. When peace is gone, my Father. When peace is gone, in our darkest hour, hope lingers on. I will not hate, and I will not fear in our darkest hour. Hope lingers here. My sister, when equality's gone, when equality's gone, in our darkest hour, hope lingers on. My brother, with tolerance gone, with tolerance gone, in our darkest hour, hope lingers on. I will not hate, and I will not fear in our darkest hour. Hope lingers here, my love. When honor is gone, in our darkest hour, hope lingers on. My country, when justice is gone, when justice is gone, in our darkest hour, hope lingers on. I will not hate, and I will not fear in our darkest hour. Hope lingers here. I will not hate, and I will not fear in our darkest hour. Hope lingers here.
Later on that Friday, the disciple whom Jesus loved the most snuck out of the upper room where he and his fellow disciples had been hiding out from the law because he just had to see how it was all coming to an end. Because it wasn't supposed to end like this. He thought we were doing some good work before now. Before now, we were just walking up and down the countryside while the rabbi gathered the multitudes to him and proclaimed his vision of a better world, of a kingdom of heaven on earth, of a beloved community that was a place where everyone was equal, where everyone was a reflection, beautiful reflection of their Creator, where everyone had a part to play in the building of this community. And it was wonderful, and people followed, inspired by the message. And then we just had to go to Jerusalem, into the midst of the empire, into the midst of the occupiers, into their heart. And at first, it was all fun and games. The people met us at the eastern gate, and they sang songs, and they laughed and praised and welcomed us into the city, and we had a whole parade. And then after that, the rabbi kept proclaiming his vision and teaching his lesson of this beloved community, of this heaven on earth, right in the heart of the empire. And all of a sudden, things started feeling a little more hot. Things started feeling a little more dangerous. It started to feel like he was challenging the order of things, and people were listening to him, and the heat just kept rising. And Rabbi, could you please just tone it down for the week? Could you just be quiet, please? And then we gathered for that Passover meal. And the rabbi said, look, I know this is scary, guys. I know this is dangerous work right now. But here's the thing. This vision I'm sharing with you all, this vision of the kingdom of heaven on earth, of a beloved community, of a place we all have a role in, it is so much bigger than me. It is so much bigger than all of us here, and it is definitely bigger than any emperor and absolutely bigger than any empire. And because it is so big, I cannot stop. And because I'm probably not going to be around with you much longer, I need you to take that to heart. Whenever you sit down to a meal together again, this moment of us together, and how I told you it was too big, that I could not stop, and therefore you cannot stop either. And then it was over. He was arrested, carted off with ropes around his wrists, and everything just fell apart at the seams. Judas, one of our own, turned him over to the empire, and Peter, like our top guy, has been wandering around town denying. Not today, Satan. Peter's been wandering around town denying he ever knew the guy or any of us at all, and we knew now we were marked men, and we had no idea what to do next, so we did the only thing we could think of. We ran and we hid, and we went up into that room that we still had some rent on, and we locked the doors, and we closed the shutters, and we sat in the dark, waiting for everything to just blow over. But I couldn't just sit there. I had to get out and see what was happening. And so the disciple that Jesus loved the most snuck out of the upper room to that hillside and saw the rabbi crucified. The same death that thousands in the empire had died, because that's how they kept a tight control on things. That's how anyone who ever said no, who ever defied, died in this system. This is how it was going to end. And worse still, those crowds that had laughed and sang and welcomed us with open arms in the community now had turned on him and sat there watching and laughing and mocking him, because that kingdom you were talking about must not have been all that great if it ends like this. Even the other rebels who were crucified alongside him were laughing at him because, man, what a mistake you made. And really, yeah, what were we thinking coming into town with this message? How could we have followed such a vision if this is the way that it always ends? You defy the powers that be, and the powers will silence you, and the complacent will laugh at you. And isn't that always how the story ends for the defiant? And what is it that the empire of that time demanded of the people? First and foremost, acknowledge that our emperor is a god. Acknowledge our emperor is a god and worship him accordingly. Or at the very least, don't get in the way of us running the state, the religion, the way that we need to run it, because that is the way we keep control over all of you. And that's the situation going on in the kingdom of Judea at the time. You had the monotheistic Jews and the polytheistic Romans and their human on earth god, the emperor, attempting to occupy the same space at the time. So yeah, there was a lot of tension going on. acknowledge our emperor is a god, or stay out of our way. And while you're at it, pay us what we tell you to pay us, because you owe us money for all these fine services you are receiving under our occupation. And pay us what we tell you to pay us in our money, the money that has the emperor's head on it, the face of our God, the money that says inscribed on it, the emperor is God. You monotheists, hold that coin in your hand for a little while and hand it over to us. And above all else, do not publicly stand up against any of what we ask you to do, of any of what we tell you to do. Do not interfere with the smooth operation, the smooth machinery of empire. Because we have the power, and we claim the power of life and death over you. And you better believe we will use it if you make too much noise. Easter is the culmination of the story of Jesus' life and ministry on earth as it is told to us in the Gospels. The story of the rabbi traveling Judea, proclaiming his vision of the kingdom of heaven on earth, of the beloved community, of a place where justice was real and was completely different from what the empire told you life was all about. Everything that Jesus taught about in his ministry was a direct challenge to the mechanics of empire, to that smooth-oiled machine. Was a direct challenge to that notion that anyone had the power of life and death over anyone else. Was that a power we possess? And if it is a power that we possess, should we be wielding it over one like gods, or should we perhaps be using it with and amongst one another to try to build something better with that power, to try to come out at the end of that equation more on the side of life than death as frequently as possible? Jesus' crime was not claiming to be the Messiah. One, because he never claimed it himself, it was claimed for him. And two, there were messiahs all over the place in the Roman Empire and the kingdom of Judea. They were a dime a dozen. They were popping up everywhere. The people who were going to liberate their people from the Romans. And the Romans honestly didn't spend a lot of time or resources trying to do anything about these dime a dozen messiahs, because they tended to pop up and do their thing and cause a little stir and then fade into obscurity. So why waste time and money on that when they weren't going to cause any real problems? But then this guy is not fading into obscurity as quickly as we might like. People are actually starting to listen to him a little bit. He's starting to get them worked up a little bit, and that's a challenge, and that's a problem. The crime Jesus committed in the face of the empire was not to claim to be the Messiah. It was insurrection. He was a threat to those two coexisting communities. He was a threat to the economic stability of the kingdom of Judea, because he challenged everything about the money exchanging at the temple and the market it had turned into, that place where they turned the emperor god coin into the temple money so that it didn't have to cross the border, and all the other business that went around it, flipping over tables and swinging around a whip. That couldn't stand. And so the Judeans went to collaborate with the Romans, who had their own issues with him, because Jesus was challenging publicly the standing order of things. That reading in the Gospel of Mark, where he holds out that coin, that was a challenge to the power of the emperor. Whose face is this on this coin? Oh, Caesar's? Yeah, give this to that guy. Give God what is due to God. And he was pretty clear in that moment that the God he was talking about was absolutely not the emperor. He would not acknowledge that. It's really cute. That story ends with the sentence, "and they were amazed by him," which is a very polite way of saying we all got real nervous at that. We had to do something about this. He is challenging everything that is keeping a very fragile peace right now, and that challenge cannot stand. And so they executed him. And the death that Jesus suffered was the death that thousands had suffered under the empire, that crucifixion, that state-sponsored terrorism that was designed to keep people in line. A colleague of mine says one possible translation of the word for crucifixion in the Greek we could read potentially as lynching, because that's what it was. Demonstration of the power of life over death, over people who dare to challenge the established order. It was designed to keep the people cowed and in line. Oh, you like that guy's message, do you? Is it stirring something up in you? It's making you feel excited about possibilities other than us, your friendly neighborhood empire? Well, look what we just did. What do you think about that? Bet that'll shut you up for a little while, huh? And it did. It did. For a little while. The real human miracle of the Easter story is this. Eventually, the disciples came out of hiding. They left the locked, shuttered upper room. Because the power of the vision, the power of the story that their rabbi had taught them, that they had followed him up and down the kingdom with, was bigger than them, was bigger than the emperor, was bigger than the empire. And because they had glimpsed that vision and because they understood the power of that story, it could not be held in that room for too much longer. And so the disciples emerge and they continue to cast that vision of the beloved community, of the kingdom of heaven on earth. And once again, the multitudes started to gather to them, and people started to like the sound of that vision in the face of what the empire had to offer. And as more and more gathered, and as more and more bought into the vision, as more and more wanted to be a part of that vision, that cross, that symbol of state-sponsored terrorism, became a symbol to those early Christians. Not out of a need to glorify the death of Jesus, because at that point they didn't care about what that meant. All the theological arguments among the various subgroups was a couple hundred years off yet, deciding what his life had meant and his death had meant and all of that. No, it was held up as a symbol, as a mirror back to empire to say, you can't scare us with this anymore. This does not frighten us anymore. They took it up as a symbol of defiance. We have glimpsed something better. We have seen what a beloved community might look like. And because we have seen that, we know your power is an illusion. We know there's something bigger than you out there. And because we have seen it, we cannot stop. The word of the day on Easter Sunday is resurrection. In the original Koine Greek of the Christian scriptures, the word used was anastasis, which literally translates as to stand again, to rise up again, to be upstanding, an uprising, defiance. The early church was built on a spirit of defiance in the face of the power of empire. And that's what we inherit as a long line of churches that came after. So why do I talk about Easter this morning? Why should Unitarian Universalists who aren't even sure about the existence of a God sometime bother with the story of a human God dying and rising again? It's unbelievable. I've struggled with believing it. Many of you, I'm sure, are struggling. Some maybe more than others, some maybe less. Some are wondering why I'm still talking about this at this point in the service. Why can't we just talk about spring? But I talk about it because the story that we tell year after year and has been told year after year at Easter for millennia does not care if we believe in it or not. Does not care if we struggle with the literal truth of it or not, because it is getting at a much more universal truth. The truth that we exist now as we are in this congregation now because we have inherited a rising spirit, an unquenchable spirit that came about in defiance in the face of demands of empire. Because it reminds us where we come from and what our inheritance is and what the Spirit of life is still calling us to do even now. Because the answer is yes, friends, we do hold the power of life and death over one another. The decisions we make, the words we speak, the actions we take on, all of that has impact. We have the power of life and death over one another, and because we have that power, we are called to use it responsibly. We are called not to abuse that. The power of life and death we possess must be used with and together and among us so that we are building something better, something that comes out more often than not on the life side of that life or death equation. It cannot be used over one another. And when we use that power together and with and among, we defy the demands of empire, of human, mundane, temporal power that wants to tell us otherwise. Because empire is a human institution. It is human and flawed and fallible and error-prone. And those who wield that power want nothing more than to sustain that power and hang on to it. And to hang on to power means that power of life and death gets used a lot more on the death side of the equation than not. To hang on to power, I have to win. And if I have to win, that means somebody's got to lose. Somebody has to get a raw deal out of the situation. If I'm clinging on to power, I have to stay at the center of the circle. I've got to be in the room where it happens at all times. And for that to happen, it means somebody has got to be on the outside of that circle. Somebody is always getting pushed out to the outside of that circle of who we are, of who is in power, of who belongs here with us. And we will use the power of the law to draw the line if we have to. And lately, if we can't use the power of the law, we'll just do it outside of it. And what is it the empire demands of us? worship our God or his chosen one on earth. Do not talk about our mistakes. We will tell you what is right. We will tell you what love is. We will tell you what gender is. We will tell you what a woman is. We will tell you what choices you should make. We will tell you what defines an American and who is outside the circle. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and turn in your neighbors who don't fit in that definition of the circle? Here, have a little bit of that power of life and death we are wielding. Have a taste of it, so maybe you won't feel so bad about the way we're doing things. And of course, fear the foreigner, for they are the source of all your problems. That is what empire demands. The farmer and poet Wendell Berry ends his poem Manifesto with these two words: practice resurrection. In my 20s, I thought that was just a cute, clever way to end a poem. But as I reflect on his words more and more over the years, because it still sits in my top 10 list of inspiring pieces of literature, I realize he is right. Resurrection, anastasis, uprising, is a practice. It is something we have to do with intent. When we get knocked down, we have to get up again. When we watch others knocked down, we have to get up for them. In the face of an empire that demands too much of the world needs not insurrectionists, but resurrectionists. People are ready to practice resurrection, to practice standing up again and again, to call back into community those who want to be part of the kingdom of heaven on earth, the beloved community, paradise, the whole human family, whatever it is you want to call it this morning. That is still the vision we are proclaiming. Something that is bigger than all of us. Something that is absolutely bigger than anything that exists just in my own backyard. And it's hard. And it is dangerous. But for all the proscribing of the circle that keeps some in and leaves some out, the more we call people back to the vision, the more the walls are toppled down. And the more we topple the walls and the more we call people back to the vision, the more power will try to silence us. And the more the complacent will laugh at us. Do not read the comments section on yesterday's protest in West Lawn. But this is not how the story always ends. Because the next Easter comes, and the next, and the next, and we tell that unbelievable story over and over and over again, so that we can remember to practice resurrection, to rise up for ourselves and for others when we are being knocked down, because the world needs us as resurrectionists. The world needs us to practice the defiance of Easter. May it be so.
Good morning again. This is going to be sort of a reflection / meditation. And I'm going to begin by reminding you and myself of two things that we can easily forget while living life on this planet. Number one, our intellect is not our only way of knowing. We can also know things with our bodies and with what is sometimes called our intuition or our sixth sense or our antenna. And number two, we're at our best when we engage and balance all these three ways of knowing. We each have the capacity through various practices, like practicing resurrection, to continually develop these ways of knowing throughout our lifetime. And I'm going to invite you into one such practice. It's a meditative practice called, or known as, Lectio Divina. A little shout out to Marta Mulligan, who just happened yesterday to text me some words from Richard Rohr that seemed to fit perfectly with what I wanted to offer. I've slightly modified his words, and I added a little bit from a wisdom teacher by the name of Cynthia Bourgeot. So, allow yourself to settle in to a comfortable, meditative posture. So for me, when I say that, it means, maybe get your feet on the floor, maybe your back against the back of the pew, a position that helps you to feel like you're being held by the ground that's holding you. Connected to the earth that we have in this space. And you might want to take a downward gaze slightly, but not quite closing your eyes, or if you're comfortable, you might want to completely close your eyes. And just begin to notice or pay attention to your breath. And allow yourself to relax into your breath. I'm going to offer this brief reading 3 times, and on each read-through, I will ask you to focus on a specific aspect of your experience, and each read-through will be followed by a minute of silence. So, as I read this the first time, I would like you, or invite you, to listen for the word or the phrase that calls your attention. Surrendering to the flow of love is not about giving in, capitulating, becoming a puppet, being naive. Being irresponsible, or stopping, planning, or thinking. Surrender is about a peaceful inner opening that keeps the conduit of love flowing through you. Beneath the shattered surface of the world, all things are being held in love. As I read through the second time, I invite you to notice any feeling, emotional or physical sensation that arises for you. Surrendering to the flow of love is not about giving in, not about capitulating, becoming a puppet, being naive, being irresponsible, or stopping, planning, or thinking. Surrender is about a peaceful inner opening that keeps the conduit of love flowing through you beneath the shattered surface of the world. All things are being held in love. And as I read for the third time, I invite you to be open to whatever you might be being invited to. Surrendering to the flow of love is not about giving in, capitulating, becoming a puppet, being naive or irresponsible, or stopping, planning, or thinking. Surrender is about a peaceful inner opening that keeps the conduit of love flowing through you beneath the shattered surface of the world. All things are being held in love. We are living through the breaking apart of so much. We are witnessing the end of an era, and all things are being made new. There is much harm and destruction happening before our very eyes, happening to neighbors, friends, loved ones, happening to us. breaking our hearts open. May we anchor our capacity for hope in our active choice to hold ourselves and one another accountable to doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. As a community of faith, we share what we can with one another. We offer ourselves through the ministries of this church by giving to and receiving from one another. One of those gifts is our financial resources. Your financial generosity makes it possible for us to live out our principles in our church and beyond our doors, keeping hope and courage, forgiveness and compassion alive. You may make a financial contribution online through the Giving app or by check. Those who are on site may place a check in the box in the Gerber room labeled for that purpose. People taking offering?
They'll come up, I'm sure.
Who might? Who might be the offering people? Thank you.
Friends, please rise once more in body or spirit and join in our closing hymn, number 344.
A promise through the ages rings that always, always something sings, not just in May, in Finchfield Bower, but in December's coldest hour. A note of hope sustains us all. A life is made of many things, bright stars, bleak years, and broken things. Can it be true that through all things there always, always something sings? The universal song of life. Entombed within our deep despair, our pain seems more than we can bear. But days shall pass, and nature knows that deep beneath the winter snow, a rose lies curled and hums its song. For something always, always sings. This is the message Easter brings. From deep despair and perished things, a green shoot always, always springs. And something always, always sings.
Friends, may light bless us and keep us. May the light of life shine upon us and out from within us, and be gracious to us and bring us peace. For this is the day. This is the one wild and precious life we have been given. So let us all find a way to rejoice and be glad in it. Go in peace. Welcome to Coffee Hour and to our Easter egg hunt for our young people here today. Please join us in the Gerber Room for that.
So, Easter egg hunt, folks. Nursery to get instructions.
Nursery, folks, Easter egg hunt.